and welcome to CIO News, Voice of CIO series. I'm Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and a contributing editor at CIO News, where we write about business strategy and boardroom issues for technology leaders. This is a recorded session and will be available on our CIO News LinkedIn page. Let me dive in introducing my guest for today. He's Mitali Biswas, the Chief Information Officer at CK Birla Hospital. Mitali has rich experience of more than 19 years working with CK Birla Hospital, IBM, PwC, etc. Welcome, Mitali.
Thank you, Khushbu.
So, Mitali, to start with, if you can give me a quick brief about CK Birla Hospital.
Yeah. So first, Khushbu, thank you for this opportunity for inviting and sharing the views. So coming to CK Birla Hospitals, we are part of the larger CK Birla group, which is diversified across many industries, healthcare being one of them. So under the CK Birla Hospitals, we have three hospitals, the Calcutta Medical Research Institute based in Kolkata, the BM Birla Heart Research Center, which is also based in Calcutta, and then the Rukmini Birla Hospital, which is in Jaipur. So these three hospitals, they're very different in terms of the infrastructure or specialities that we cater to or the patients that we cater to. But the vision across three is the same, that is to, provide the best patient experience, across all the hospitals.
Yeah, so if you can tell us, since this pandemic has hit us hard, Mitali, how is CK Birla responding to such situation?
See, the pandemic has hit all the industries in very different ways. While for most of the industries, the focus was to provide business continuity by enabling its workforce to work from home or remotely. However, the situation in the hospital was very different. We couldn't afford to sit at home. So everybody, had to come to the hospital. Yeah. So we had to work on a very different lens. So everybody was at the hospital. However, the challenge was that the patients were not coming to the hospital. Right? There was a low footfall because of the scare, the lockdowns, so the footfall was very, very low. So we had to quickly launch something on the online consultation program. So even though the patients were not able to reach us, we could reach the patients. The doctors could consult them, on a technology platform. So that was a quick thing to do. That needed also a lot of bandwidth, right? The hospital was not equipped to handle that. So one initiative we took was to, double the bandwidth in the last couple of months. Then the use of digital media to reach out to patients, be it, on WhatsApp, on SMS, on our portal, on our other channels. So, a lot of webinars conducted by the doctors with the patient. So for example, very recently, RBH launched a Pink Heart campaign, for very specific to the women heart diseases. So, that was one thing we did. And then lastly, I would say the compliance and the government guidelines, with this COVID situation, a lot of guidelines in terms of what data to capture, how to capture, what reports to be sending to the government, the SMS to be sending to the patients, and all of that had to be digitized and automated. So making sure, that your application is able to capture all of that, store it, and then send out the necessary reports and information to the patients or the government, whoever is asking for that. So those were, kind of a direct hit of COVID, which we, very quickly had to put in place to make sure that we were able to respond to the situation.
How is CK Birla Hospital adopting innovation? You did mention about online consultation. So what kind of technology, you've adopted for the people on the ground to provide continuity services?
So, like most of the hospitals, we had already embarked on our, digital transformation journey. But what COVID has done, it has fast-tracked it. And, some of the, items which were far ahead in the roadmap, those, suddenly have become the need of the hour. We thought, it would be needed, 2 years down the line, but suddenly you realize, no, it's needed now. True. So, our target is to finally create a digitally enabled workforce, which not only means that you have the right infrastructure, the right set of tools and applications, but also educating your work. So, it's a whole mindset change that you need across the organization to be able to adapt to these changes. Because in general, we are not that tech savvy. And it's a huge population of technicians, nurses, admin, and all of them, need to be kind of equipped with that, digital tools and applications. So
Right.
we have, picked up different technology projects for different departments. So for example, what we did with the sales and marketing team in RBH, RBH, since it's based out of Jaipur, a lot of the patients, they come from the districts
Yeah.
surrounding Jaipur.
Yeah.
And earlier, our sales and marketing team was in touch with the patients, face-to-face connects, regular visits to the doctors in those areas. So they refer it to the hospitals. Now with this pandemic, social distancing and all, that's gone. So we very quickly, for example, launched a mobile connect application called RBH Connect, which we give it to the, the doctors in those districts or the, the other people who could quickly get in touch with our sales team and refer patients.
Right.
And it's end-to-end integrated, so our sales and marketing team, they directly get a SMS, or also they can check on the portal about the details of the patient, and then they can do the necessary actions to make sure that he gets to the hospital on time and gets the needed medical attention.
Right.
Then our next biggest population in the hospital is nursing. That's a very critical application, and as Khushbu, you were saying, it's actually the doctors and the nurses who are fighting the war. We are just supporting them from behind. So they are doing a great job about it. And the nursing, learning is a very, very critical part of nursing. And
Yeah.
with this, COVID, there are new guidelines, new
Yeah.
processes they need to learn every time.
Yeah.
So we are now launching this whole nursing learning on a technology platform online, and we are naming it as Nursing Skill Passport, which is an online platform for learning and also assessment. So, from when a nurse enters a hospital as a junior staff nurse to, the supervisor or the matron. So the entire journey we are trying to, launch on the portal, and we'll be launching it hopefully next month. So that's one of the biggest, change that we are bringing. Then in the supply chain side, we are taking on a project to integrate with the vendors. So the process within the hospital is probably automated across different departments.
Right.
But when it comes to, ordering to the vendors outside, who give us those drugs or, the other consumables, etc. So that integration, with the vendors, so that's on the chart.
Right.
And then of course, HR department is online, recruitment, onboarding, induction, all of it now has to be done online. So these are, the few projects that we have taken up already. Some have already done, some are in the process. And we are trying to do it in an agile fashion to make sure that, we keep giving small pieces to the, all the workforce, so they get used to it, and, there's releases coming on every time. And apart from this, not to mention the infrastructure also, because as you move on to the cloud solutions, it's, security and your internet.
Yeah.
So that takes on, plays a very critical role. So those two are also, we are looking at, whatever solutions that we are building or, adopting should be good enough. Our infrastructure and security should be able to handle it. In terms of innovation, we did a very interesting thing, while in the lockdown in the last 2 months, June or July. So we conducted the first ever health tech hackathon, with the management and engineering students of Eastern India. So there were about 8 to 9 colleges who participated, about 300 plus students. Finally they came up with 30 plus ideas, and finally we selected about 3 top ideas, and the entire event was done virtually. And it was so interesting, the ideas that the students came up with, disruptive ideas around, remote patient healthcare or smart inventory or AI-based diagnostics. So that was, a very interesting and exciting thing that we did. And now we'll be, picking up the top 2 or 3 ideas, and we are looking at developing, further for the hospitals.
That is awesome. What percentage of work you think will remain digital post-COVID?
So, see, finally, in the coming years, 5 or 6 years down the line, probably it has to move towards 100%, going forward. At some point we will reach that. It depends on, how each hospital is able to adapt to it. It's not only just putting some technology in place.
Correct.
Your workforce has to adopt it. Your patients has to adopt it. It is the whole ecosystem that you work with, right? The pharmas, the pharmaceutical companies, your TPAs, your insurance providers. So all of it has to adopt it. And that's a big change.
Right.
So it's very difficult to give a percentage, because until this whole ecosystem works, you are not going to, get 200% digital. So I think we will get there slowly. And with this COVID, I think this will expedite it.
Expedite. Correct. Correct. And what is the future of work looks like for healthcare industry, and what are the technologies you see as a way forward for healthcare?
So, we are currently in a very exciting and a learning phase as I see
Yeah,
this healthcare industry. And we have a long way to go. So, there'll be a total shift from how a healthcare industry is seen or perceived.
yeah,
So the whole thought around hospitals, it has to be reimagined. And, we need to look outside the boundaries of the hospital walls, right? So, for example, remote monitoring, AI-based diagnosis, telemedicine, smart inventory, those are some of the use cases that will gain popularity as we grow. And the technologies which I think which are going to dominate are, cloud, IoT, AI, they'll play a very major role in the future. All of them are in a very initial stages. The use cases are not very defined or matured. But I think as we move on, these will play a very critical role. And of course, security, as I said, it
right.
becomes very important as we move on to these technologies.
True.
Even in the Indian context, our PM, Mr. Narendra Modi, he announced this National Health Digital Mission last week on 15th of August, right?
Yeah,
So I think that is also something which will come up, and all hospitals need to start preparing for it in terms that, all the data that is needed at the patient's fingertip. You need to make sure that you're capturing all that data, you're digitized, and you'll be able to give that data upon any request. So, that's also a very good move, I would say. So there's no doubt, that technology is going to play a very, very important role in the future of healthcare.
absolutely. Any advices that you would want to give to the other healthcare companies, and certain do's and don'ts for the CIOs from the healthcare and the community that you would want to give?
So, we need to probably totally change our thinking, so we need to come out of our traditional thinking that patients are going to come to the hospital.
Yeah,
So we have to totally, look at it in a very different way that, we as hospitals need to go to the patients. So,
right.
we need to look at that and see, what is needed to achieve that. And for that, there are a few things that would be needed. For example, bringing agility to the whole organization
Yeah,
to adapt and execute things faster.
yeah,
You ensure, that your infrastructure is geared up to support your future solution. A lot of focus on cyber security, not only putting the security controls, but making sure there is awareness, training, strict security policies around everything.
yeah,
And then start looking at, small solutions and integration. So
yeah,
in hospitals, there is not one large software that does everything.
right.
And with this new solutions coming up, you would, do a POC and then before you scale up. So
Yeah,
make sure you start small, but make sure that you can scale up as need, and then you can build a lot of integrations. That has its disadvantages also. The more integrations you have, there are more chances of a lot of
yeah,
issues.
yeah,
But you have to look at it from that angle, because it's not that you will have one large system which will do all. So
yeah,
look at different small solutions and build integrations around them.
yeah.
Build the right talent in your team, to be able to support and build those solutions. And then finally, the partnerships,
Yeah.
with the medical technology companies, with the your insurance or 2PA providers, even with academic institutions, I would say,
Yeah,
because you cannot, do this alone. So
true.
you need, that whole ecosystem and the right partnerships to move ahead with this.
I know it has been a very difficult time for healthcare industry to ramp up and really find time for themselves. So I just wanted to know if you've managed to pick up any new learning. I know it was a total ball game, different ball game for the healthcare, but anything that was different for you in this whole pandemic
So
situation?
I think personally for me, even I had to adapt,
Yeah.
right? This changing situation, every day. So, it was a different kind of adaptation, because, at home, the kids are like, no, everybody is, sitting at home. Why are you going to office? You
Yeah.
know, and, give that time to your kids. So
Right.
I do a lot of reading while I'm at office, making sure that, we are geared up for the right, because it's a lot of learning for CIOs also. We have to also constantly read and gear up ourselves. So I am doing that. And whatever time I get on my Sundays, I just try to relax, I would say, and recharge myself.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much, Mitali. And once again, hats off to the entire industry who in healthcare industry and people who are in this industry working for all of us in this situation. A big thank you to the entire team, and thank you once again for taking out time for coming for this interview. And it was a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure as well.
Thank you. You have a
Thank you.
great day.
Thank you.